webinar session. We have started this initiative to promote mental health and well-being during this COVID-19 crisis. That is the initiative to promote mental health well-being for all the participants. I think we have reached more than 20,000 participants, and now we are counting. The number is counting. And today, with us, one of the renowned persons from the Punjab, Dr. Megha Arora Malik, and she is a licensed psychologist, clinical psychologist. She is practicing clinical psychology and having more than 6 years of experience in that clinical setting. And now she is working in one of the leading hospital in Punjab. And one more thing for her credits, she's having published in some of the articles, and she's the most called resource person for the seminar and webinars. And fortunately, I have gone through her profile, and she's see that lot of videos and promoting mental health, and actually she's doing for that area. But now we had an opportunity to listen her knowledge and learning. And today we are going to have an important session on replacing codependent relationship with interdependent relationship. Yes, it's need of the hour. We human beings are social animals. We are dependent. Our happiness depends on other persons. How we can have a better relationship. So for that, there are many resources given there. Today with us, Dr. Megha Malik, is a clinical psychologist from Punjab. Presently, she is working as a clinical psychologist, not just neuropsychiatric center, Amritsar, Punjab. The floor is yours. Before that, I invite Mr. Krishna to give an instruction to the participants, then it will take over the session. And your co-host now, we can just begin sharing your screen from your side.
Yeah. Thank you, Suresh. I just wanted to add one more point. I just realized, and she is one of the top 10 clinical psychologists in Amritsar. Just I was browsing through, I got some data somewhere. So, and that's a very wonderful thing. That means, how popular and how effective psychologist she is. And that means her experience counts, and also she is into this neuropsychiatry, which is very, very important. Hearty welcome, Dr. Mehak, and I just give some instructions to the participants. Friends, this is going to be one of the fantastic lecture today, and to have this, to enjoy this lecture, please keep your mic on mute mode, so that you will give conductive environment for other participants, so that they don't get disturbed. And please ensure that you are always on mute mode. And the session will be there for 40 minutes, and then after that there will be question and answer session, where you can unmute yourself, and you can ask the question for which Dr. Mehak will be answering. So, and if you are on video, and if we request you to keep video also on mute, because sometimes it drags, and the network problem and buffering comes, then if we request you to put on your video also mute, please do so. Otherwise you can be there, but in that sense then you can maintain some online decorum, so that people are safe and happy to be there to see you. Yeah, this is the two important instructions I would like to tell you. Dr. Mehak, it's your stage. Please take over. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you for the warm welcome, and good evening, everybody. Well, I don't have to give my introduction. Enough has been said, and I feel literally overwhelmed with that, because I still think that I'm learning every day, every moment. Okay, so let's start with the session. Replacing codependency with interdependency or interdependent relationship. First of all, let's try and understand these two terms. Now, when we talk of codependency, any casual person around would tell you the meaning of it. What is codependency? They would say that a person who is dependent upon the another person is the one who is codependent. That is the casual form of codependent definition that we talk about. But, and what are interdependent? When I tell you what is an interdependent relationship, you would say that a person who is dependent upon one person is an interdependent. So basically, these two terms are used as synonyms, but there is a huge difference when we talk about these two terms. especially in the psychological setup. It's like a day and night thing when we talk about interdependency and codependency. First of all, let's try and understand what exactly is the word codependency. Now, codependency, there are certain characteristics, or I would say there are certain main points that a psychologist or students in psychology should know, that you can try and figure out what is codependency. First of all, a codependent person or a person in a codependent relationship is always dysfunctional. Okay, he is dysfunctional and he is in a one-sided relationship. What is one-sided relationship? Where one person, he relies on the another person for all his needs, be it emotional needs, be it physical needs, be it psychological needs, be it more particularly in psychological needs, his self-esteem needs, his self-efficacy needs. So this person is in a one-sided relationship whereby he is dependent upon the other person. The other person is called enabler. So I'm going to be using these terms like enabler in the entire session. So and when I talk about enabler, you should understand that enabler means that the person who he is dependent upon. So this codependent person, he is dependent upon the enabler for all his needs, especially for his emotional and self-esteem needs, right? Then what this person does is that he would expend all his energy in meeting up the needs of that one person. If supposedly that one person is say sad, if that one person is not doing well, so he would say that that person is not well, it's because of me he's not well. He would think that because of me, there must be something lacking in me, there must be some lacunas in me, because of which why this person has dependent has this thing that he is sad. So that person feels trapped. He is trapped in a relationship, yet he does not. The worst part in a codependent relationship is that a person knows he is entrapped in a relationship, but at the same time a person does not speak it out. He would say the way he thinks that maybe abusing that person or being entrapped in a person is a norm. For him it is a norm. For him it is not about, we people can talk about that, so and so people is being physically abused by the partner or emotionally abused. Why the person doesn't speak up? Because sometimes that person can be a codependent person, because for him a physical abuse and emotional abuse is a norm. So they would take it very casually, like any norm that we would abide by, right? Now, when codependency came into being, basically this term was not applied on the general population. It has been here now since decades, but this term was basically coined for the alcoholics, like for the people of the alcoholics. Now, one codependent person can be a partner, it can be your spouses, it can be your family, it even can be your friends, right? So don't think when I'm pointing out codependency, so it is only with the romantic partners. No, it can be spouses, it can be family. So this term codependency was coined basically for the alcoholics. And the person who used to take care of the alcoholics, like suppose the mother or the father or the guardians, they actually were termed as co-alcoholics. Okay, so they were termed as co-alcoholics, and that's how codependency came into being, whereby they were actually counseled whenever, like I have been working in clinic now since 6 years. We have, whenever there is a drug addict patients, we actually have to deal with the codependents first, because whenever we are in a counseling process, because most of the relapses that happens in drug addictions, or most of the relapses even that happens in the other mental disorders now, or mental illnesses, is because of the family factor. Why do we talk about family support now? Why are we talking about the family therapies now? Because now the psychologists, they are aware of codependency being the one factor, because whenever in a codependent relationship, a person's all the needs, if not met, the codependent suffers. He would blame himself or herself for the relapse of a person. So that's how we were talking in between, that this term was applied for the alcoholics, that the alcoholic person who is taking care is dependent and for all the needs. But later on, research studies were held, national and international, and it was said that, no, this codependency factor is and has to be applied on the general population as well, because it is there's this one very common word that we use called clinginess. What is clinginess? When you are just attached to a person and you are almost all the time attached to the person. So that is called unhealthy clinginess. You are being clinged with the person all the time. So that was codependency as the unhealthy clinginess, right? Now, a question might arise that how do we differentiate between a clingy person and a codependent person? Because as I'm saying that it is unhealthy clinginess. So obviously when you feel, as a person, as a layman, as a friend of that person, you feel that a person's needs are not met. The person is not making a time for himself or herself. He has no interest to hang out with you, or you are feeling yourself that, the person is being physically abused. So next time when you think that a person is being physically abused, and, before making a judgment that, maybe this person is physically abused because he doesn't have the guts to speak. No, just understand this thing, that never pass a judgment before you are in the person's shoes. That person can be a codependent person. That person might be entrapped in the relationship, but he doesn't feel that entrapness. He doesn't feel that clinginess. For him, it can be a normal thing, right? And there are several reasons how this thing arose, which we will be talking about later on. First of all, when we talk about codependency, so the thing arises, how do we know that this is codependency? What are the symptoms of a codependent person? Number one, low self-esteem. Now, a codependent person would be very low at the self-esteem. He would not cater to his interest. He would think that, he cannot accomplish anything in life until and unless he meets the needs of the enabler. So for him, the self-esteem depends upon the person to his enabler. For example, if his enabler is very happy, the codependent person would extremely be happy. His self-esteem levels would be very high. And, we have seen that. I, being a clinical psychologist, I take the, psychometric test of these patients. And sometimes, when the person, supposedly if it's a case of a drug addict, if the enabler is doing well, he is taking all his medications, he's not into drugs, and when we test upon the codependency scale of the codependent, he would absolutely give us high self-esteem scores. But when a person has a relapse, and maybe because some patients, they do have a relapse out of circumstances or whatever reasons, they come back to us, and then when we get the self-esteem scores of the codependent, they are horrific. Like, they are even, sometimes they give us something like high depression, not even moderate, high depression and severe depression. That's the score that comes. So a person's low self-esteem, a codependent's low self-esteem is absolutely low if the needs of the enabler are not met. Otherwise, it keeps varying. Secondly, these codependent people are people pleasing. Okay. For them to please the enabler is so much important. And if it is not, that would give them anxiety, that would give them nervousness, that would start coming on the physiological body. They would have these problems like, I'm feeling nervous. They would be like really, really in the zone where they would feel that, I have to please my enabler, otherwise I am getting anxious. So they are a people pleaser. Thirdly, these people have codependent individuals. They have poor boundaries. Their boundaries are very rigid. They do not want another person's help. Please remember that thing. They do not want other person's support in managing the enabler. They would be like that, I am right. I have set particular boundary for a person. I know his treatment pattern is like. So, they would just be very, very rigid. Secondly, they have weak boundaries. Why weak? Because if their rigid boundaries are not met, if supposedly they think that, whatever decorum they have maintained for the individual, if for the enabler, if it's not meant, they would not want to cross it. They would be settled in that, and they would be anxious. They would be very psychologically low, yet they would never want to move out from that boundaries. So they have those very poor boundaries. They would, they feel that my boundary is just limited with the enabler. I cannot go out of it. I cannot, my life is just with the enabler. That's what I'm meaning. Secondly, reactivity. They would react to everyone's thoughts. Somebody, who would supposedly, if there is a codependent person, and if I tell him that, you have your own life, if supposedly when we start counseling them, obviously the first 1-2 sessions are obviously about talk therapies before we implement them, the CBTs or the DBTs. Okay. So when we start interacting with them for a rapport building sessions, they are like, they have reactions over everything. They are like, you are speaking all nonsense and you don't know what you're talking. We know we are right. So they think that their thoughts are right. Their reaction to everyone's thought would be very loud, in the manner that, we know, we do it for the enabler. You don't know anything. Even if you try, if the family support tries to tell them that, take time out from the routine for yourself, get into your interest, they would not want to listen to it. So that is also one thing, that reactivity is there. Then caretaking is more than empathy. Okay, see, it is very important that when you are taking care of an individual, it is absolutely amazing that if you empathize with that person more than sympathize. That's what we do as counselors. But then when something reaches more than empathy, that becomes codependency. So that's my point, that, if supposedly, if I am coming home after my counseling sessions and getting my counseling sessions on home, and I keep on thinking that, this patient was like this, he gone through this, she gone through this, that means somehow, even I would be giving a codependency in that thing. So you are taking care of an individual more than normal, right? Then dysfunctional communications. Obviously, there is when you are into your own zone means enabler zone, you obviously would have this thing of being not communicating well with the other family support. So you have the dysfunctional communications, right? Then there is denial for everything. Their problem lies in someone. Okay, and they would be denying that thing, that no, they would never admit, a codependent would never admit that, he or she is wrong on something. There is denial. There is a lot of denial, right? Then they have this problem with intimacy. They do not want to get intimate with anyone in context of problems, in context of their things. They want that everything that enabler does should be known to them. If supposedly I am a codependent person, I would want that my neighbors should talk about everything to me. They should not discuss it with their why we have marital conflicts whenever a wife, supposedly she gets married, the girl goes in the family. Why is it that sometimes we have patients like that it's been only 1 month or 15 days to the marriage, and the person is all about his the unhealthy relationship that's going on in the family. Possibility can be there that maybe the girl or something, because we have to dig into the problems. So I can confidently say that there are people who are so much codependent that they do intimate with anyone. They think that their motive might be very right, that I am the doer, I want to take care of the person. So that can happen, right? Then when we talk of codependency, let's talk about interdependency first. Now, when we talk of interdependency, what is interdependency? When two people, they rely on each other for their support, for their love, okay, there is, yet they are taking care of there is an individual life. That's how. And now I'm going to try to tell you the differences between interdependency and dependency, so codependency, so that you understand the concept more clearly. Now, when we talk of interdependency, the two people, they rely for the support, they rely for the love to each other, but both have a value in a relationship. They both would feel that we as individual people, we are to be valued. But when we talk about the codependent people, there is absolutely a one-sided relationship whereby one person is only sacrificing for the another person, and he's sacrificing with the utmost happiness. He is very happy to sacrifice for the enabler. For him, if the enabler is happy because of his or her sacrifices, their everything is fine. Their self-esteem and their there's no perceived stress to them. So absolutely everything is amazing. Now, when we talk of interdependent relationship, here both parties, they try to make relationship a priority, but they value their friends, they value their hobbies, they value their family support system. But when we talk about codependency, they absolutely are not interested in what is their interest, what is their hobby, what is a social circle, what is a family. They are not interested. For them, only one person, that is the enabler, is the God, is the universal person. So that's how a person is codependent, right? Then independent relationship, in interdependent relationship, a person, an individual, both the individuals rather, they express their needs, they express their emotions, right? But in a codependent relationship, no expressions is there from the side of the codependent, because he doesn't recognize it. When we are counseling these codependent patients, that's what our duty as being a psychologist lies, that we need to make them recognize their own feels, their own hobbies, their own interests, that then that person should be tackled. So codependent as such, they are not interested in their expression of needs, and sometimes they don't even recognize it, that they have the feels, because as I told you earlier, for them it is a norm. To be a codependent person is a norm. Okay, why? There can be certain reasons for it, which we'll be discussing down after this. Then it is in a dependent relationship, interdependent relationship, there is a form of sacrifices that is being done by both the parties involved, be it your friend who is an enabler, so there are both people who are, but in a codependent relationship, it is only one person who is sacrificing every time, and somehow I feel the enabler also becomes habitual, that so and so person is sacrificing. So that's how we treat that person. We treat the enabler thinking also in the counseling sessions, that come on, you need to recognize that so many sacrifices that is giving happiness to the codependent person is not making you happy in the long run. So you will have to give them the points where you will have to tell the enabler. So whenever we are doing the codependency counseling, both enabler and the codependent people, they are taken into account, right? Then specifically in codependent relationship, there are identity crises, which again, they might ignore their identity, or they might be aware of the identity, but they do not want to go out of the identity part. But when we talk about interdependent relationship, there is no crisis at all. They only prioritize the relationship, but at the same time, as I said, they will never ever go out of the way to sacrifice their own self-esteem or to sacrifice their own self-respect. They would never want that, right? But a codependent person would be his all the time, his all the energies has to be deposited with the partner. Okay, and I have come across in my 6 years experience, there have been very, very educated people also, and very it's not about that somebody who's not aware of these two terms cannot be a codependent. Obviously people are using these terms. That is why I chose this topic, because it is one very underrated topic. People are not talking about much of it. We need to tell them that if we obviously talk about depression, we talk about anxiety, we talk about panic, and we talk about all the other mental disorders, right? But then somehow I feel when a person is in depression, one of the cases was, from my experience, I can tell you that, one of the cases was that even one person was a depressive person. And the reason that came out to be was that, he was a codependent one. So that was self-created. That depression had nothing to do with the family thing. When we dig into the person's details or a case history as a psychologist, we then learned that, that particular person was a codependent one. So obviously depressive feelings, unwanted feelings, identity crisis, they came on the surface. That was somewhere hidden in the conscious part. The unconscious part, they came on the surface, right? Then when we talk of codependency, codependency is a learned behavior. A person is not born with a codependent traits, or characteristics, obviously. So it is a learned behavior. And how is it a learned behavior? That I'll give you certain things from my experience, that how sometimes codependency is a learned behavior. First of all, damaging parental relationships. Okay. One, if you are born in a family where your parents must have had a dependent or damaged relationship. How a damaged relationship? That, for example, just to, explain you better and in a simpler manner. For example, if in a family, there is a mother, a father, and a child, now a single child again, maybe, the mother is, just assume that the father is an alcoholic. Okay. Now what happens is that the father, somehow the child will learn that, the parents are giving priority. One of the parent is giving priority to his drinks over me. And there are chances, the researches, international studies have been conducted. There are data that proves that, a person with a parent who have had a mind setup where the being alcoholic was more important. His needs were more important than than the child's need. So that adult, when that child grows into an adult, he would be a codependent child, or he would be a codependent adult. So it is a very common thing that if you have been born in a damaged parental relationship, you can be a codependent when you grow as an adult. Okay. Also, sometimes if there is nothing in the family, like just the way I gave you an example of parents being alcoholic, for example, sometimes just maturity, lack of maturity, and even the emotional development, there's no emotional development, and if there is lack of maturity, then also this thing codependency can develop. Then second, I would say that living with a mentally or physically ill parent, or anyone physically ill guardian or parent. Sometimes what happens is that when you are a caretaker, okay, supposedly at a very young age, you are being a caretaker of someone in your family who you only have to look after. Then there are chances that at that very childhood, you cannot, you don't value your needs, you don't value your interest, you don't value yourself, your self-esteem. And that's how, when in the future, in the adulthood, you can have those traits of codependency. So I'm just trying to tell you that how codependency develops. It is not from the, if it is from the childhood, then how it came in the childhood, how it, it cropped up there. So that's how codependency comes. Then abusive families. Yes, abusive families can also be one reason that, how supposedly if you have a child, okay, a teenager who has been abused, physically abused, mentally abused, psychologically abused, there are chances, there are studies that show that sometimes a person who is abused, he might, for him, when he grows as an adult, he might even seek an abusive relationship. Now, for example, if a person is being abused by the spouse, that person somehow, we would say that, why, as a layman, that why this guy doesn't have guts or something, that he can rise up for himself. No, he doesn't have guts for himself because he has been in an abusive environment where he feels that, abusive relationship is a norm. It is okay to be a part of it. Things would be fine. That's how he would try and confront his own emotions. And believe me, when you are a codependent person, there are times when things come on the surface because it is a learned behavior. So obviously you are not dead to your emotions. There are identity crises that I mentioned. There are self-esteem, loss of self-esteem needs. But there comes a point, because when we are counseling a codependent person, he or she has a point some time that, yes, I was wrong, but he's not wanting to leave that thing. He is not wanting to get out of the thing. So basically he is aware of his lacunas, but he is just satisfied with all the things because he has been brought up maybe like that, or maybe he's been part of that thing, or maybe he has learned something like that. So never pass a judgment before. And I always say that never please pass a judgment on anyone who you see that, has not taken steps for himself. That is why I wanted to bring up this topic, that next time, at least the audience that we have today, you can understand that when sometimes in your society somebody tells you that, so and so person did not raise some guts for himself, you can obviously tell them. Now, the most important part of this whole webinar is how can we make a codependent person, like, for example, whatever I said today, maybe many of you might have somebody in your mind that, yes, that person might be now a codependent person who you were thinking that, that person, why that person is not speaking out for himself. So how should you try to make a codependent individual into an interdependent one? See, number one, as a treatment thing, you have to take small steps for that person. For a codependent, you have to make that person aware that, he has his own interest. Because everybody, each of us, we have our hobbies, we have our interest, even if they are not on the surface, but they are grounded somewhere, okay, and we have to take them out, okay. Because a codependent person would be, if an enabler himself, tries to help the codependent person, nothing less than that. Believe me, not even we as psychologists can just guide you. We can give you the expertise. We can give you the tools and techniques and everything. Ultimately, the therapy starts when you go home, right? So you need to take small steps whereby a codependent, he understands his needs, he understands his or her hobbies, his interest, and he should take some separation time from the enabler. Make sure that if you come across some codependent person, you have to give him something in quotes called separation time, which means that, you have to tell them that take some 1 hour. Start with 1 hour always. I don't give as a therapy also. I don't want to wean everything. Nothing can be weaned off in a day. It's no magic or a witchcraft here. But when you are into a treatment thing, take small steps. Tell them to have a separation time, and that's how you can do. Secondly, let the codependent person spend some time with his support system, like his family, his friends. The family and the friends need to come to the forefront. See, if as a friend you're observing that, it's been 8 months or 9 months that a person has not come to us, he's not hanging out anywhere in the parties or in any social circle or in any professional meetings. So and the person might tell you that, yeah, I've been busy just taking care of my in-laws, or taking care of my enabler, whoever the enabler is. And we also as individuals say that, acha chalo, just take care, okay. But just understand that you, being a responsible person, responsible friend, responsible support system, everybody talks about mental health. Whenever I feel, whenever some big short thing happens, everybody would be talking about mental health. This is mental health, we are there. After this big short death that of a celebrity that happened of recent, there were messages the other day that, I as a friend being there. I mean, coming from the most judgmental people also. So that is why I'm trying to tell you, never judge an individual, okay? And as a responsible person, if you feel that somebody is not been there with you since a very long time, and you are noticing, because a person can notice, it is easily it is noticeable. If one of your very good friends, suppose, is not coming to you for a long time, you obviously notice it. But just go out to that person, reach to that person, talk to that person, tell him to spend time with you. And that's how his codependency trait that he has learned can be overcome, right? Then there should be a me time. Me time again is related with the thing that, you have to tell a codependent person, you have to give them, what we do is that we everybody has, happiness traits. For me, happiness can be different. For you, happiness can be different. Like we have safety boxes at our places, we know which medicine we need to take in the flu. We know which medicine we need to take when we have a fever or a viral. Now even the COVID medicines you guys are aware of. So HCQ, which is so on. Similarly, every one of you in the seminar today, because you can learn, you can tell others to learn, have a happiness toolkit. Today, just go home and, just after this webinar, rest it out on a paper. What is your happiness toolkit? I cannot give you your happiness toolkit traits. It is as per you. For example, one chips packet for me is my happiness trait kit. Going out with my friends would be my happiness trait kit. Spending time with my family, with my daughter, would be a happiness trait kit for me. So what you have to do is that after this session, maybe each one of you have your happiness toolkit. And whenever you feel low, whenever there are some days when we feel very sad, very low because of certain reasons, and which is like normal, which is absolutely normal. Ups and downs are a part of life. So just open that journal. I thoroughly believe in journaling. So when I'm talking about me time for a codependent person, me time would be, just take out a journal, write it down. What is your happiness toolkit? So that when you are low, you can obviously take that. But in a codependent relationship, that person has never had a me time only. You have to make the person aware of these things. Only you will make him aware only if you are aware, right? So tell the person, that's how we do. We tell them that take your me time, start journaling, start walking with your headphones on or something you like to listen, or just go out alone, have your me time. Because the motive is to give them a separation from the enabler, because their life is just about the enabler thing, right? Then as I told you earlier, yes, enabler must be told about these things, that because he at point gets habitual. For example, I'm just giving this example is not related here, but I'm just trying to make you understand the concept, because I feel if I give you simple concepts, simple examples, you will understand. See, for example, if there is somebody, say your mom, she is regularly cooking for you, you obviously, as a as a person who eats her food daily, you would know that this food has been cooked by mom. For example, if somebody else cooks it for you, okay, you would then also know that this food is not cooked by mom today. This is definitely being cooked by somebody else. And you would grumble. Some of you would grumble that if the food is not tasty, that why mom, why you didn't cook for us, so you would recognize that thing. So similarly, the enabler, that's what we tell enabler, that don't get habitual with the sacrifices. Okay, the sacrifices is making that codependent happy, but in the long run, that is going to affect his mental health. It's going to the mental health, the physical health is going to be topsy-turvy. And first is always the mental health that's get deteriorated. And when mental health gets deteriorated, the physiological health also comes on the being. So enabler must be guided, that you have to give some me time to the codependent as well, and do things on your own. For example, if supposedly a person have had a relapse, say on anything, relapse on depression, relapse on an addiction, anything, somehow the enabler would have many reasons of blaming the codependent, that yes, you didn't do something. And codependent in turn, he or she is waiting that yes, blame me, because for him or her it is a norm. So it is very, very important that in a codependent relationship, you need to talk to the enabler. If supposedly your friend is not coming to you since a long time, you need to, if the person is not speaking it out, you need to talk to the concerned spouse for her, for why she's not coming. Get out of your zone, get out of your comfort zone to make the other person feel comfortable. Okay, just not on the messages or on the quotes you have to do that. Get out in the practical settings, right? Then obviously, if things are not working, psychological help can always be taken, the expertise help can always be taken, whereby we would be implementing many therapies around, so that and therapy obviously first start with the rapport building sessions, and then we would be giving them the solution focused therapies, short solutions we would be giving them. How can you have, because our first motive is to make the codependent person realize of his own interests that are hidden somewhere because of the childhood, or because of the why he learned that things that I told you. So that can be hidden because of that, right? Then just understand this concept that you have to be needed only when you are needed. Okay, if a person, if the enabler, you need to guide the enabler that if you want some help that particular point of time, you want a shoulder to lean on, you want ears, the person should be lending your ear so that you can speak out. Help whenever it is needed. You need to specify the codependent person that whenever a need has to be required, you will be informed. Till that, just be into your own life, get into your own interest, get into your own hobbies. So to make the balanced thing, a two-sided relationship has to work. It is not one-sided things that work. It always has to be two-sided things that works in a relationship. So that's how codependent relationship, they they can be changed into interdependent relationship. And believe me, if you have constant support with you, if you have constant upbringings with you, if you have constant network of friends who are there with you, everything like codependency, at least I can say, can be overcome. More than medicines, more than whenever, as a psychologist, I'm saying to you, supposedly, and it's a very general thing that I'm winding up in the end. See, supposedly, if a person comes to me, okay, he says that, ma'am, I do not get sleep, I get very anxious, I get very nervous because of things like I keep thinking all that. One thing is that, please, there is this thing called ACT in psychology, which is very trending now. What is ACT? ACT is acceptance and commitment. Once you figure out that, yes, I am an anxious person, yes, I am. Now see, I being a psychologist, I am giving a positive psychology. Yes, we are talking all positive, but I am not rejecting my negativities as well. I am not rejecting my worries, my lacunas. So always, when you are as an individual, accept. Supposedly, if some of you in the webinar today have a habit of overthinking, right? It's a very common thing that we think, we overthink, we get anxious. So overthinking gives rise to anxiety, it gives rise to panic, and if not handled nicely, it would give rise to OCDs, that is obsession and compulsive personality and disorders. So accept anything that makes you sad, accept that, yes, I have a personality like that, but at the same time, I need to grow it out. So yes, as a psychologist, people come and tell me, that was an example that, ma'am, I'm not able to sleep well. I would never want him to get into the medications. Come on, first, just let's try to make you sleep. There are so many remedies to it. Go for a walk, don't take naps, have an exhaustive energy to yourself. That's how sleep will come. And if it doesn't come, we can dig out in other things. Don't always think that because it's a medical science, so medicine is a cure to everything. It is a cure to everything, but then why not put in a session, put in a whole hour thing first of all into anything. So that was it for today. That dependency and interdependency are two interchangeably used terms, but they should not be used interchangeably. They are not synonyms. And in the very opening line, for those who joined in late, I said that what is codependency? You would say that codependency is when somebody is dependent upon another person. What is interdependency? You would say same line. So now you know what is codependency. Have those things in your mind, okay? Dysfunctionality is there, one-sided relationship is there, low self-esteem, poor boundaries, not wanting to go out, no interest, no hobbies, not wanting to get out to recognize your interest in hobbies. So that is a codependency. And that's all for today. Yes. So let's have the questions now.
I think Dr. Mehta did a nice presentation. Now I invite Dr. Veena to question and answer session, to lead the question and answer session. Dr. Veena, are you there? Okay. Veena, are you there? Ekta?
Yes, sir. She's there actually. She has to unmute. Ma'am, please unmute yourself. You're not able to unmute.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah,
can you please allow participants to unmute themselves? I think it's because of that ma'am is not able to unmute. I don't know.
You can carry on, Ekta. You can carry on. I think.
Yeah, it's audible to me.
Ekta, you can leave now.
No, for me, it's not for me, sir. It's Veena ma'am is actually there in the session. She's present in the session,
Where?
but
Not there.
she's there, sir. But she has not muted. She's muted right now. If you see.
Now, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mehak. That was a wonderful session, and you have enlightened about the codependency and interdependency, which is a very new topic to all of us, most of us here. And the floor is open for questions.
Your voice is breaking.
Now, ma'am, is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's fine.
So now the floor is open for question and answers. We have a few questions here. Can you tell us how to handle codependent person from narcissist partner without creating mess up in relationship? Or is it the same way for handling alcoholic plus codependent relationship?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Well, yes, a codependent person who has an enabler, who is a narcissistic, is a thing that you won't be able to handle alone yourself. Okay, so for that you will have to take down some of the because here we will first be working at breaking the narcissistic personality of the enabler, and then we can start up with the codependency part. So it is important that a codependent person's counseling as well as the enabler's counseling, who is a narcissistic personality, has to be done together, has to be as in there have to be individual sessions going on for the same. So whereby we will be focusing upon the codependent person in our ways, the ways that I told you, and for the narcissistic personality, for the for the enabler who is a narcissistic, who has this narcissistic personality, we would be first breaking their narcissism. Somehow we would, because there are strategies that how to handle narcissistic personality. So first you need to be breaking down the narcissistic personality, and that cannot happen at home, ma'am. You have to meet the psychologist and the psychiatrist for that. So yes, but this thing can happen, this thing can be cured.
Thank you so much. We have a question from Sangeeta Vadva, ma'am. Ma'am, can you please unmute yourself and ask the question? Sangeeta Vadva.
Dr. Veena, you can get the questions in the chat box alone. You can read out. That will be better.
Yes, sir.
You can get the questions in the chat box, ask them to type, and then you can convey the message to the resource.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Before I get to the questions in the chat box, we have a question from Lochana Suresh, ma'am. She can ask the question so that I can read the question from chat.
Hello, Veena.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, ma'am, we can hear.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead with your question, ma'am.
Yeah, Dr. Mehak, thank you very much. It's a very interesting topic. My concern is if the enabler is not cooperative, and he is very adamant and he thinks it is his right to be looked after like that. How do we deal with such a situation?
All right. Thank you for the question, ma'am. Ma'am, as I told in the very beginning, that when we talk about how a codependency can change into interdependency, it is very important to take into account both the codependent person as well as the
Yeah.
the interdependent person. Because
True.
over time, what happens is that, ma'am, enabler, he gets habitual. He gets habitual of all the things that supposedly, if all the love and if all the care is given to you, supposedly, if very simply, if I give you a good morning text good morning text every day, I give you a good night text every day, and for consecutively for 2 months I'm doing that thing to you, and if suppose for one day I miss it out or 2 days I miss it out, you would start feeling very frustrating in the sense that you would say that, kya hua hai? What happened? Why that person is not wishing me up? Why is the text not coming me up? So when we are dealing with such individuals, we have to make sure that an enabler's needs that have now come because of the codependency are taken into account, and they can be rectified. So they can be rectified, ma'am. We have to understand the fact that codependent and enabler, they both are important. We cannot blame the enabler because somehow he develops this thing because of the codependent person.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So we
So,
can meet the both needs. Right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
But still, habitual behavior is a little bit difficult to break.
It is, but
Unless
ma'am,
the
somehow with
unless the
patience, with,
codependent has to take the effort of breaking the habit.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Lochana ma'am. Next question is, ma'am, my question is, if some misunderstanding is happening in a relationship and person is not ready to clear, and also the person is feeling inside difficulty like anxiety or depression, and she wanted that friendship back, but won't possible. So what is the best therapy or skill we can use for a client?
Ma'am, see, if a person is like that, if a person is not one, you have to see, until and unless you don't get the emotions in your verbal thing, your emotions have to have a vocabulary. Okay. So if a case like that comes to me, I would like to first break the emotions into a verbatim, let them speak out, because of which they are not able to convey the things to the codependent or the other person who they want to convey. So let your emotions have a vocabulary, let your emotions speak out. Then we will tackle those emotions. We would try to give you a solution. We will try to rectify the solution. See, psychologists are no magicians. Again, psychologists are not giving you some therapy according to their experience. They are not. They would be sitting up with you, they would be talking to you, they would make your emotions come on the paper. That's what we do. We have to give you we have to give vocabulary of your unsaid emotions. We would tackle those emotions, and then we can give you strategies of whereby you only will have to speak to the another person on your own. You will have to give outlet to your emotions that ways. So yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is, how to change the long-term negative attitude into positive attitude?
Right. Long-term negative attitude can be changed into a positive attitude, which is a long-time process. Okay. It is not a magic. Again, it is not something that would be giving you overnight thing. As I told you, make your happiness toolkit today. Okay. Be grateful. Just write down on the paper 10 things that you are grateful for in life. Okay. Also, one of the very, very important thing to overcome negativity as such that we psychologists are using is called the window period. What is a window period? Basically, window period in simple terms is called worry period. Set aside a worry period. You have negative thoughts? Okay, cool. Accept. First, accept that you have negative thoughts. And second, in the capacity of being a human being, it is okay to have negative thoughts. You cannot be positive, positive, positive all the time. So it is absolutely accept that you have negative thoughts. Second, be glad that being a human, in the capacity of being a human, you have negative thoughts. Then third is set aside a window period. For example, in the whole day, say supposedly I started, if with my patients I started with 45 minutes. For 45 minutes you only have to think negative. You will not think anything positive. Please do that. If you are facing such problem, ma'am, just think negative. Just think all the negative emotions that are bothering you. Okay, somehow don't let, if for example 5 minutes, for 5 minutes I'm thinking all negative, 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 somewhere a positive thing will come that, no, you don't have to do that. 45 minutes only on the negative thing, right? And then in the entire day, when you have, because in the entire 45 minutes is not a thing that negativity will come. 45 minutes thing mein negativity can come, cannot come, but you only have to think about your worries at point of time. So in the entire day, when you get negative thoughts, what you have to do is just train your mind, because that's what we do it. We have to train our minds in this manner that a negative thought is coming, either you journal it out, or if you are so much into the negative thing, then somewhere in the brain, for example, I would want to journal it out and say that this thing has to be thought in my negative period. Because when you start with the window period, no, you would have to think, what negative should I think? For how long can you think, ma'am? I'm giving you 45 minutes. For 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, somewhere positive element will come. But I am telling you that you don't have to get the positive element. So for example, if your worry time ends in 20 minutes, wrap it up. You will have negative emotions the entire day. Then just journal it out, and just train your mind that these are the negative thoughts. And today I just spent 20 minutes on myself, whereby ma'am told us to at least spend 45 minutes. So these negative thoughts are going to be thought tomorrow. That's what you can do, and that you have to train yourself. And that's how constant sessions with the psychologist, constant speaking out to a person who is your support, you can overcome. So it's a long time thing, but accept the fact that I never want my patients, or I never want people who come to me for counseling to run from their problems. Come on, you have a problem, that is why you came to us, no? So it is okay. You have, supposedly if a person has depression, most of the family members in the family would say that, this person has depression. Okay, you go hang out, go to shopping, or go handle a kid, maybe you will feel better. There's nothing like that. There is. Please accept it, that mental illnesses are there. So it's okay. We have a cure to it. We can live with our mental illnesses, at the same time not affecting our lives. That's the motive. You can live with your mental illness. That's not your personality. Your personality is how you are going to surpass that mental illness, but living your own life. So yes. So set some window period for yourself.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, whether our cultural and traditional practices are the causes of codependent attitude? Can you?
Yeah. Ma'am, as I said, somewhere, yes, culture has an important role to play. A culture whereby but now the people are speaking it out. Now people are coming out on the surface. Now the things are changing. Everybody, each one of us, women, men, I'm not giving any gender biases, but each one of us same now. We are working upon it. But yes, somehow in the cultural background, where we have been taught that, women emancipation, that things like, women can do this thing, that they have to prioritize their things, they have to prioritize their relationship first. Such things obviously somewhere, get things to your heart, that, culture is there. For example, if supposedly your kid is very ill, I'm just giving an example. If
Your voice is breaking, Dr. Meher.
Network problem, ma'am. Dr. Meher?
Mehak, there is a network problem, I think so.
I think network problem.
I'll try to contact her in WhatsApp number. Ma'am, Subha ma'am, can you unmute and then say something about our initiative? And we are in the 125th session. You can share your experiences. Ma'am, I will contact her in that WhatsApp.
So, good evening, participants. It's wonderful to be with you all in this journey. It is fantastic that we have crossed more than 124, and today we are stepping into the 125, which is the greatest achievement for all of us, along with you. It is not just we could do it. Without participants, this show is nothing actually. And we started this on April 14th. I remember I started the session and within positive strategies during this pandemic. Dr. Suresh was in brainchild behind this, and he initiated from the Madurai American College and Department of Psychology. He initiated this webinar series, mental health. He called me one day, Subha ma'am, can we start doing this? I just instantly accepted, because there's something good things can happen during this period. Let's do it. So we never thought, while we were saying yes and we started, we never thought we are going to take this torch for so long. But this is only possible because of the wonderful participants and as well as an excellent core team we have. And these core members are dedicated, sincere, and also committed to their profession. All of them are bringing their best. Either you call it as a resource person or a technical support or anything, documentation. And there are people who are appearing on screen are very less. All the time I may appear, and Veena used to be the MC, all-rounder, and also Ekta is a technical support, and she also supports in MCing. There Ananya and other people are also, Akshaya, all there. There are, and Krishnan is there for all time instruction giver. So he is also bringing a lot of people for us, and everyone plays their role meticulously. That is why it is possible for all of us to run this show without any fall, without any kind of a kind of a pitfall. We were able to make it out. If one is not available, we were able to take a next step or around. And everybody is doing voluntarily. Everybody is enjoying, because this is for a good cause. And Suresh started with a very good heart, and it is reaching out very well. We have done a lot of you all know that we have covered the 100th show, and CRS came and he actually spoke to us. And also MSSW joined, MS Elamuthu.
Shubha, she's there already.
Fantastic.
Waiting,
so thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, Suresh. And Suresh is famous for his surprises, so he has given this surprise also today. And I 1 minute for me. There are unsung heroines and heroes behind the screen also. Chandra and also Bharati and Ilayaraja and other people who has been coordinating with us. And I would have not mentioned some Riyaz, or someone is there. I have not mentioned few, and they have been doing it also back screen, like the director or the certificate which you are receiving. All that is being done by them. And I am really grateful on this day for all the core team members for taking this flag the great high, and I really proud to be associated with this core team first. And over to Suresh and the expert. Thank you.
Yes, I think expert joined again. The speaker, please, I can continue the question and answer session. Dr. Veena, you can coordinate.
Yes, sir. Yeah, ma'am. We were talking about the influence of culture and tradition on this codependent.
Yes, as and I was telling you, sorry for going, I don't know what happened to the connections, but yes, culture has a role to play, ma'am. Somehow when we are just getting a culture of, women emancipation and women enrollment and this and that. So I was just giving you an example whereby a mother-in-law is calling a daughter-in-law from the work atmosphere that, just come home, the baby is not feeling well. Why is she not calling the father? I mean, because maybe a father would be free that point of time. Why is it that we are being trained that first a daughter-in-law has to be called out, and if the daughter-in-law is busy, then you have to call out the father? Why is that? Why is that system set? without any gender discrimination. I'm not into that thing, okay, but I'm just trying to tell you that let's break these norms, some of the norms that are being set by our culture, because they were not, and that is not their fault also. They have been not given an exposure that we have been given to. And it's okay, their norm was different, but now the norm is different. We can always tell them, and very politely we can discuss such things on the dinner table or somewhere, rather than discussing any other things around. So yes, be productive. That's the thing in anything.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is, if a person is codependent, will he isolate himself, not mingle with his family, does not share his feelings? How to overcome this problem?
One, when a person is a codependent, he would not isolate himself. Isolation is self isolation. For him, enabler is the world. Okay, so one, isolation and codependency doesn't go together. Yes, he might withdraw. Okay, there's a difference between isolation, there's a difference between withdrawing. He might withdraw from his family, from his support system, from his friends, because he needs to take care of the enabler, right? So he is not isolated. He would be isolated if the enabler doesn't pay heed to him or her. Then he would be isolated. So he withdraws. That's the correct word. And yes, it can be overcome again, ma'am. I gave you the tips and the treatment things, that how we can do it, how you can go out of the way. If you are a friend, if you have a friend who's a codependent, go out of the way to talk to the person, to tell them what is the value of me time. Talk to the enabler, that why you're not realizing that she or he is sacrificing for you, and you need to stop those sacrifices happening, even if that would give her unhappiness. So yes, we can cure that.
One more question, ma'am. You said overthinking leads to stressful life. How can we come out of it? Can you give some tips or
Okay.
guidelines?
Well, see, somewhere I feel overthinking is as casually used word today as depression. Okay, we are now speaking about it. We are now talking about it. Now, overthinking, again, accept your overthinking, accept the fact that yes, I am an overthinker over certain things. I overthink a lot, but at the same time, I know this overcoming is giving me anxiety. At least you have the whoever has asked this question, I would say, sir or ma'am, it's absolutely amazing on your part that you have an insight of it. There are people who don't even have insight of what they are facing. So you are absolutely on the right track, that you have an insight. Just accept that you are an overthinker, and at the same time, just get your worry period, get your window period with you, where you can think. You can overthink a lot in that period. You can write it down. I have my patients who actually, who write their overthinking, they write down in their words. That's what I have been trying to tell you. It is very important to give your emotions a vocabulary. That vocabulary can be through your journal. It can be through your verbal thing, by talking it out to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or to your family support system. So that's how overthinking can be managed. You can write it down. You can set a worry period aside. If that also doesn't work, go out, go exercise, go to the gyms, go to the walk. If that is also not working for you, try and handle your diet pattern. Try and handle, because diet, believe me, I am doing this research now of recent, not on the conclusion though, but diet has a lot of role to play in your chemicals of the brain. What is psychology? Basically, we feel psychology is a very subjective term. It's a very subjective subject. People are saying, they're just talking all nonsense, and they're just talking about it, about all experience. No, believe me, it's the most empirical, not because I am a propagator of it or something, but it's the most empirical thing that's happening with us. We as psychologists, we as the propagators, we the professors, we the clinicians, the occupational psychologists, each one of us, have to get that thing in our system, that let the person accept things. So accept your overthinking, ma'am. Accept your this thing, and get into the worry periods, get into the other things, talk it out.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, can you explain the difference between codependency and possessiveness?
Okay. See, possessiveness doesn't make you dysfunctional. That was my first line of the topic when I started with it. A codependent person is not dysfunctional. Okay, a codependent person is dependent on that person miserably. That's the word. He's dependent for his happiness, for his sadness, for all the emotional needs. He's dependent on the person. Possessiveness is something that, a positive I would say possessiveness is also of two types: positive possessiveness and negative possessiveness. When you are possessive about a person, you are going out of the way for the person. You feel that person should be there with me, should inform me everything, but at the same time you are not affecting your own life. You're not if you are a possessive girlfriend and you are going to the office also, and still you are being possessive, you are not codependent. At least you are going to the office, you're not ruining your life. A possessive person, yes, has a chances. A negative possessive person has a chances of being a codependent person. That's what I told you, that codependency can be learned. It can be learned due to circumstances. So a negative possessive person, if not able to tackle his emotions, he can become a codependent person. But there's a huge difference between the two terms. Believe me, codependency is synonymous to dysfunctionality. And a person who is possessive and still going out to the office or to any part of area is not dysfunctional. At least he is moving on with the life. Codependent person cannot move their life. Their life is equal to the enabler.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that very interactive question and answers. And participants, kindly send your queries and feedback to mywebinarfeedback@gmail.com. Now, I request Subhashri ma'am to please place the vote of thanks for the speaker, and we will unwind the program.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meher. That was a fantastic,
Thank you.
And I think it is a power. I request all the participants to keep your mic mute. Yeah, thank you so much for the coordination. And that was a fantastic flow. I really enjoyed. You were like a bullet train. You were going, and it was an Sadabdi Express, I should say. And you were so cute in explaining the terms in a very simple way, and I could not see the tint of clinical or something is there. You were very, very, connecting with people oriented talk. That was fantastic. And you explained about the concepts of toxic relationship, how it could actually affect their mental health in a very simple way, so that people can practice every day. And I really thankful, and you are a bubbly and a very young girl who's really wanted to give so much for the the profession, and also really wanted to test on. That is a fantastic. And as a woman, I could feel that I could connect with a lot of concepts what you are able to say. And thank you from our bottom of our heart. That is the core team. Please accept our gratitude. And we are grateful from Department of Psychology, Madurai, American College, and also the MSSW, MS Chalamuthu Foundation Rehabilitation Center, and other associations with us, and the beautiful participants who have been traveling with us, wonderfully listening, interacting, and asking questions, and also learning, and also part of our learning journey. We are learning every day through this webinar. And I think this is the best way to hone our skills. And during this pandemic period, we are able to lose out and also release our tension through expertise like you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me with such dignity team like yours.
Participants, you can find the FB link in Self Space on Facebook, and we will be sending the feedbacks also. You can write us to mywebinarfeedback@gmail.com. We will meet tomorrow with yet another wonderful session.
I have a few instructions. Dear participant, I think thank you so much for traveling with us. And regarding e-certificate, I think we made a few adequate necessaries for sending the e-certificate within 12 hours. Okay, from tomorrow onwards, immediately after the session, we will share you the link in that WhatsApp group. If you are not there in the WhatsApp group, please be a member in that. So we will share a link, and you can get that certificate immediately within 12 hours. That is the way we are just working on it, and then you can get it. And to meet the technical necessities, we are charging 10 rupees per certificate. Yearly, we given that, try to give that free. And yearly, we charged 100 rupees for more than one certificate. But now we are planning to have only 10 rupees per certificate to meet the technical expenses, the designing charges for that persons who are working on that. I hope you will support for our initiative. Thank you so much for your amazing support. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all for your amazing being here and then continuous support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suresh, for a wonderful initiative and keeping us, all of us, tied together and as a web so long. Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you.
is your initiative. We all are pulling it, but I think so grateful to be associated in this core group.
I mean, we
Thank
are
you.
going to a lot of journey. Welcome.
Thank you.
Participants, we'll meet tomorrow with yet another wonderful session. Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.